In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut this stylish backless bustier gown with side gathers. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. And this dress is from Tailored by Belle on Instagram. Now to start, you need the full length of your dress. So for this pattern, I'm making use of the length of this pattern paper, which is 35 inches. Now, you need to mark out your basic measurement, which includes your shoulder to bust, under bust, waistline, and to get your hip point from the waistline is 7 inches. Now, the lower part of this pattern paper is our dress length, which is 35 inches. Now, after you're done marking this, you want to go ahead to start inserting your measurements. Now, I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2. Come down by 1 inch here, and after marking that, I'll place my ruler and draw a slanted line because our shoulder is not straight. Now, you're going to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now, my measurement is 7 inches, which is my chest line. I'll place my ruler at that point and I'll draw out a straight line. Now, after I'm done marking that, I'll place back my ruler and I'll mark what I have on the shoulder. Sorry, my tape. And I'll mark what I have, connect and draw a straight line. I'll divide my armhole by 2, come out by ½ inch, and I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'm going to connect to that ½ inch here and then connect to my bust circumference divided by 4. Now, after I'm done marking this, I'll start by marking my dart. And to mark my dart is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, which I marked all the way starting from the bust to the under bust, waist and hip point. Now, after I'm done marking this, I'll go up by 2 inches from my chest line. So you can go ahead to measure what you feel is okay for you. Now, I'll replace that nipple to nipple line on that 2 inches above my chest line. Now, I'll mark my dart intake of 1 inch on both sides of my pattern. Now, going down, I'll go ahead to mark 1 inch at the under bust, 1 inch at the waistline, and 1 inch going down, but I'm going to slant it down while going down. Now, if you're plus size or a bit busty, you should consider using 1.5 inches. Now, I'll connect from the bust to the under bust and connect at the other side. Now, after I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to connect from this point to the 1 inch dart. Now, this 1 inch dart is not a standard. You can use 1.5 inches if you're a bit busty or you're on the plus size. Now, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker and I'm going to connect this all the way down. Now, I'm going to slant down my dart at this part. So I'll measure about 5 inches starting from my waistline to mark, or 4 inches to mark. Now, I'll go ahead to connect this down and also connect at the other side of my pattern. Now, after I'm done marking, I'm going to go ahead to outline. Next, I'll insert my body measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add a sewing allowance. Use any sewing allowance of your choice. I'll mark the under bust divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. After marking the under bust, I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Now, on the hip point, I'm going to mark the hip circumference divided by 4 and add a sewing allowance. So when I was marking, I mistakenly marked a wrong hip measurement. I'll still go ahead to readjust. Now, place your ruler and connect from the bust to the under bust to the waist. And this is where I realized I used a wrong measurement for my hip. Now, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, which is 40 divided by 4. I have 10. Now, I'll add my sewing allowance and connect. That measurement I have at the hip, I'm going to take it all the way to the lower part of this pattern. Now, After I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead to cut out part of this pattern before we go ahead to alter it to achieve the dress. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please kindly hit on the subscribe button. Now I'll take this aside and we're going to work on this pattern. I'll draw out the neckline and connect to the armhole. Now I'll go ahead to cut out this area. Now to draw out this side, I'll come out from the waistline and connect this all the way down to my nipple to nipple point. Now I'll be going ahead to cut this out this way. So while cutting this out, I'll just make a little readjustment here. Now I'll cut out the rest of the pattern, and for the side I'll be using a slash and spread method to achieve that. Now I have videos that is on my second channel, which is Marquis Closet, on how to sew a bustier gown with side gathers. Now for the neckline of this dress, you have to measure from your over bust to the other side of your neckline and down to your over bust to measure what is okay for the strap for the neckline. Now I'm going to use a slash and spread method where I'll be slashing this pattern. Now to get more information on how to make this, you can go ahead to check my other channel, which is Marquis Closet. I have different tutorials on how to make a bustier dress with side gathers, so you can just check it out and it will serve as a guide. Now you're going to slash this because you're going to be placing it on a fabric and adding space to it to create that pleat or gathers effect at the side. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please kindly hit on the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. So this is what we have for this side. Let's go over to the back pattern. Now for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurements. I've marked out the zipper and I've gone ahead to mark my measurements, which is my shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, 7 inches to get my hip point. Now after I'm done marking this, we are now going to go ahead to draft out our pattern. Now remember, all these measurements I took at the back is similar to that of the front. The only difference is that I have a zipper at the front side of my pattern. Now I'll start by marking a dart on my pattern, which I'll start from the bust to the waist and down to the hip point of my pattern. Now I'll place a ruler and I'm going to connect this starting from the bust to the waist and down to the hip point. After marking this, the next step is to go ahead to take a dart intake for your pattern. Next, I'll be marking a dart intake of 1/2 inch on both sides of my waistline. Then I'll come down by 1 inch from my bust. Now I'll place my ruler and I'm going to connect. Also connect on the other side of my pattern. And from here, I'll take this down about 4 to 5 inches after my waistline. Now the next step is to go ahead to outline with my marker. I'm going to go ahead to insert my body measurements now. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. Now all my measurement is starting after the zipper. Going down to the waist, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake that I have there, replace and add my sewing allowance. At the hip, I'll mark the hip circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance because there's no dart there. Now place your ruler and you're going to connect this all the way to the lower part, and from the bust to the waist to the hip, and whatever you have on the hip, please go ahead to take it down to the lower part of your pattern. Now after this, I'm just going to come in by 1/2 inch here to take out the zipper bulge and I'll be extending this down. Now after marking this, I'll extend this all the way up. Now I'm going to go ahead to outline my chest line, and from my chest line area I'll come down by 1/2 inch. This is to avoid my pattern from popping up when I'm wearing it at the back. Now from the waist, I'm going to connect this all the way down. So I'll still be cutting it out just like we did for the front. Now you'll be measuring up the side of the front pattern to the side of the back pattern. That is when you're actually making this dress to create that pleated or ruffle or gathers effect on your pattern. Now I'll just go ahead to cut this out. Now if you have any question, go ahead to leave it at the comment section. Now just go ahead to continue cutting out my pattern. So remember, if you also want to make this pattern, you can go ahead to check on my first YouTube channel, which is Marquis Closet. There you can go ahead to see tutorials related on how to make a bustier with side gathers. So for the side of this pattern, after you're done cutting it, you're also going to use a slash and spread to achieve it. So at this point, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Please go ahead to hit on the subscribe button.